What's going on, everyone? So today we're doing a deep dive on Stevens Transportation. And actually, I was thumbing through some of my old CDL training material from back when I went through CDL school back in 2016. And I actually ran across an old pamphlet from Stevens Transport from when I was going through CDL training school. And inside of that pamphlet, I found a dedicated and regional fact sheet which gave some information about what the company was all about. In this video, we're going to call a driver recruiter, take a look at some reviews online about Stevens Transport, as well as look at some videos off of YouTube from other drivers who have gone to work with them. And at the end of the video, I'll answer the question, okay or no way, would I, Trucker 219, go to work for Stevens Transport? And after we get through with the recruiter phone call, I want to compare and contrast the differences between what they have to say now versus what they had to say almost 10 years ago. So in 10 years, let's see what's changed. Let's go.
Thank you for calling Stevens Transport.
March!
Thank you for holding. How can I help you?
I was thinking about getting my CDL, so I heard from a friend that you guys offer a CDL training program. I was curious to see what that looked like.
Okay. What state do you live in?
Tennessee.
Okay. Closest program we can put you in would be our school out of Knoxville, Tennessee. That course is 3 weeks long. We do provide housing if you need it. Your out-of-pocket cost would be right at, I believe it's $100 even, and that's just for your permit and your license.
Okay. And during those 3 weeks, is there any pay?
No, sir. You're not paid during school. You are paid during your 6 weeks of over-the-road training once you complete the schooling. For those 6 weeks, you're paid $700 per week, and then solo pay begins at 50 cents a mile.
You said in the training was 6 weeks, and how much did it pay?
$700 per week. That's for your over-the-road training once you complete school.
If I go through your guys' CDL training program, is there a contract that I'd have to complete with you guys?
Yes, sir. It's a one-year contract.
And then if I were to finish up with getting the CDL through you guys, go through training, what would it look like as far as pay after that?
50 cents per mile is what new drivers start at.
Okay. What's the average miles? Go ahead.
On average, you'd be pulling in about $1,000 to $1,300 a week starting out.
Okay. And then what's your average miles per week?
25 to 2,800.
And then what's your guys' home time?
3 weeks out, 3 days home.
Okay. And then if I were to go to and get a CDL somewhere else, what would the tuition reimbursement be? Do you guys offer that?
Yes, sir. They'll reimburse tuition up to $7,500.
Okay. And that's paid out at?
Well, it just depends. They're going to make the monthly payment as long as you're employed with us.
Okay. So there's not like a maximum monthly payment that they'll pay out?
No, sir. It's just the total is $7,500, and then they'll just pay your monthly payments as long as you're employed with us.
Okay. All right. You guys do refrigerated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What is detention pay?
The detention pay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. For detention and layover, it's going to be $20 per hour that it goes over the expected delivery time.
Okay. And that's not like a 2 hour expected for across the board?
Correct. It would be after the 2 hour mark.
Okay. Gotcha. How often do you guys do drop-in hooks? I know with refrigerated, a friend told me that it takes a while to get unloaded a lot.
Well, we're 95% no-touch freight, so we do pay lumpers to load and unload the truck. If you do any loading or unloading, you would get paid extra.
But as far as dropping the trailer and picking up a loaded one, you guys don't do that?
No, sir.
Okay. And then last couple questions. Do you guys have cameras in your trucks?
Yes, we do. Outward facing.
Outward only. Okay. And then what are your guys' trucks governed at?
64.
Is that the same while CDL training is going on, or does it go up?
No, sir. It stays at 64.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I'll get back to you if I decide to go with you guys.
No worries. You enjoy your day.
All right. You as well. Bye. All right, so I just got off the phone with the driver recruiter, and they do have a CDL training program. However, there is no pay while you're going through CDL training for those 3 weeks. And in fact, they actually require you to pay $100 up front to cover your permit. And even with that, there is still a 1-year contract if you choose to go through them to get your CDL. After those 3 weeks and you've got your CDL, you go through a driver training program, and that is a 6-week program, and the pay for that is $700 a week. And according to the driver recruiter, you would be making 50 cents per mile once you go solo. The average weekly miles is 25 to 2,800 miles per week. She said every week you should anticipate making anywhere from $1,000 to $1,300. Their home time policy is pretty standard across the board. For every week out, you get 1 week home, but it's 3 weeks out, 3 days home. If you choose to go to a private institution or a truck driving school to get your CDL, they do offer tuition reimbursement of up to $7,500. And I wanted to make sure I asked, especially since they do refrigerated, what the detention pay is, and it's $20 an hour after the first 2 hours, which is not bad across the industry. However, being that it's refrigerated freight, you're more likely to wait at the docks longer. And this is because you're dealing with food product. And at the warehouses where they do all their checking to make sure that the product is presentable on the shelves. I asked if they do drop-in hooks, and according to the recruiter, they do not, which is actually quite strange for a large carrier like Stevens Transport. But they did say it was 95% no-touch freight, but if you do have to end up unloading anything, they'll pay you to do that. How much, they didn't specify. As far as cameras in the truck, they only have outward-facing cameras, which is going to be a big perk for a lot of people. The majority of these major companies have inward and outward facing. And finally, their trucks are governed at 64 miles per hour. But let's go ahead and do the math to see where the numbers line up as far as the cents per mile and the average miles per week. According to the recruiter, you'll be getting anywhere from 25 to 2,800 miles per week. So let's just go ahead and do the low end here. Multiply that by 50 cents per mile is what she said. And you're looking at $12.50 per week. That's before taxes. Now let's go ahead and see what the high end is showing. 2,800 miles a week times 50 cents per mile. And you're looking at $1,400 a week before taxes. So let's take a look at that high end and take some taxes out of the high end, because she did say it was anywhere from $1,000 to $1,300 is what you should expect on your check. So let's multiply that by 20%. Again, 20% is a rough estimate. It could be higher, could be lower, depending on where you're at. So $1,400 minus $280. And that would mean you would pocket $1,120 after taxes. So at the high end of their claimed average miles per week, you would just be bringing home a little over $1,000 per week. But I gotta be honest with you guys, 25 to 2,800 miles a week for a major carrier, especially on your first truck driving job, is pretty difficult to hit, at least in my experience. Realistically, you're probably looking closer to 2,000 miles per week. So in the event that that realistic number is correct, let's go ahead and do the math on that. You're looking at $1,000 per week pre-tax. Take 20% of that, and that's just $200. And that'll bring you home $800 after taxes. So let's look at some of the things they said in the recruiter phone call today and compare it to what they said almost 10 years ago. For immediate release, Stevens Transport to increase wages for over-the-road driver training. And it says on the front page here that trainees will receive $450 a week for the first 3 weeks of over-the-road training and $500 a week for the remaining over-the-road training. And according to the recruiter, in almost 10 years, they bumped up that number to $700 a week for the entire training. So not bad, right? Now I'm looking at this dedicated regional fact sheet, and on here it's saying the compensation is between $800 and $1,000 per week almost 10 years ago. According to them today, it's between $1,000 and $1,300 per week. But the average miles back then was 2,200 to 2,400 miles per week. And today they said it's 25 to 2,800 miles per week. And I think the difference for that is the fact that the home time was a little bit different back then than what it is now. According to this sheet, you would get home 1 to 2 days per week, not necessarily on the weekends. But now home time is 3 weeks out for 3 days home. So that might be a contributing factor to why they're claiming that they're making more miles. But I just thought it was pretty interesting to take a look back at a time capsule and see what the difference was between then and now. And realistically, that pay has gone up just a little bit over the period of about 10 years. So let's go ahead and get online and take a look at some reviews for Stevens Transport. All right, so first we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Google reviews and see what they have to say. And holy cow, already 2.7 stars out of 684 reviews. This has to be the lowest star count that I've ever seen on the Google reviews for any particular company. All right, so just keep in mind that these are Google reviews. Nobody knows anything about punctuation or grammar in these, so we'll just go ahead and do our best here. Speaking for myself, not enough miles at first. I run 600 plus miles a day. Then they slow you down, giving you 1,300 miles to last 4 days. I can do 1,300 miles in 2 days, so I need 2,600 miles for 4 day or maybe 5, just because I know how things are going at the shipper and receiver, and Steven's wrong information or not picking up the phones. I know it's guys that get miles a lot. Guys don't still a okay company because it is great people there, but just not benefiting me and my family. Very nice trucks, and they keep them up. I can say that.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Okay, so I gather from that he's not getting enough miles, and they kind of wane it out towards the end of the week. They get you good miles at the front of the week, and then at the end of the week, they back it down to where you end up with about 1,300 miles for the week. Okay, we got a 1-star here 4 months ago. Last night, your driver hit our truck, and when asked if he hit our truck, he told us no, and he was standing in front of our truck, then asked who hit our truck. He said his trainee hit it. Instead of knocking on our door to wake us up, he tried to go park the truck and not say anything to us. Okay, so somebody was complaining that there was a bad driver. Okay, we got a 1-star here 2 weeks ago. Treat their drivers horribly. Wrongfully added incidents on driver's CDL when ins denied the accident ever happened. Will send you for loads to the wrong place with the wrong paperwork and blame you for their mistakes, and you still get put on detention pay. On top of that, they send you to pick up a load at 8 a.m. when your current delivery is due at 9 a.m. for the same day. Yeah, that's crazy. That would tick me off. And they say it's fine. We know you're good, and Steven knows you're going to be late on delivery. They still say it's okay. They know. Then you get a detention pay again. When you call about it, they act stupid. They are full of lies to make it sound great. They will do everything they can to ruin your CDL license credit. Okay, so somebody's really not happy with them over here on this Google review. All right, let's see this 5-star here. This was reported 2 weeks ago. I have been with Stevens Transport for a little over a year, and I have had a great success here. My uncle has been with Steven for 25 years, and I plan on achieving the same things he has done for the company. Great atmosphere, great company to drive for, and really great training. Stevens has taken good care of me out on the road. I couldn't ask for a better company to drive for. Okay, so that one could be a little bit of nepotism if they know that there's an employee that has a relative there, so they're treating him a little bit better. Okay, this one's kind of funny. It's a 1-star review 2 months ago from a civilian, not somebody that's in the trucking industry. Just spent 20 minutes watching one of your trucks pass a Swift truck. It literally took 20 minutes. Your driver was in the passing lane going 9 miles below the speed limit. This is frustrating and inconsiderate in Arkansas on I-30. About 10 minutes ago. That's what happens when your trucks are governed at 64 miles per hour when the speed limit is 70 miles an hour or 75 miles per hour. And then you get 2 trucks side by side that maybe Swift is governed at 63, they're governed at 64, so they're taking forever to pass at 1 mile per hour. Okay, here's a 1-star from a month ago. Horrible company that will do everything in their power to ruin your life career. Started off my trucking career with this company, and I deeply regret it. They flooded my DAC report with a ton of lies, making it very difficult to find a job elsewhere in the trucking industry. They don't care about their drivers whatsoever. If you get your CDL through their CDL school, which I did, they feel as though you owe them loyalty for the rest of your trucking career. I spent nearly 5 years with this company, and they still tried to threaten me with collections, nonsense, saying I owe them money for my CDL school. Yeah, that's completely inappropriate. But truth be told, you do owe them a contract. However, according to that recruiter phone call, it was only a year contract. You shouldn't be threatened like that. I'm immediately turned off by hearing that. I've had a similar experience with another company where there was a situation that came up and they threatened me to stay on with the company, saying that I owe them a bunch of money, which now looking back on it, knowing a little bit more about the industry, I actually didn't. Okay, so we got a 5-star here 5 days ago, which is really recent. Okay, so I came all the way out of Massachusetts to work here, and it's had its ups and downs, but overall it's solid. The pay is good for me. Mind you, before coming here, I sold everything I have. No kids, no wife, just me, so with no bills, I'm living good. I had doubts in the beginning, but with them being a training school, they will always have somebody for you to talk to if you have a problem, someone to ask questions. They do what they can to make sure you're taken care of. I now have an apartment behind Stevens, and I am a contractor and don't see anything changing for a while. Awesome. Well, I'm glad this guy had a good experience. It definitely helps if you can sell all your stuff and live out of the truck, and the only responsibility that you have to take care of is your food and your phone bill. It definitely makes no matter what you're getting paid pretty easy. All right, let's go ahead and check out some Indeed reviews. I feel like these are a little bit more relevant oftentimes. And flipping over here, we still have the same problem. We're at 2.9 stars. Again, this is some of the lowest I've ever seen. Work-life balance is 2.4. It's a trucking company. That's bound to be a low number. Pay and benefits, 2.6. Job security and advancement, 2.9. Management, 2.7. And culture, 2.8. There is no individual area that is above 3 stars. And if you look right here, what people are saying, a clear sense of purpose, ability to learn new things are the only positive things that are over here. Time and location flexibility, fair pay for the job, and sense of belonging are a negative. All right, so we got this filter switched to the newest, and we're taking a look at these reviews here. We got a 4-star review. It's a lifestyle, not a job. It's a training company, and they're good at what they do. Being a truck driver is a lifestyle, not a job. You sacrifice so much out on the road. Not everyone makes it through training, and that's okay. This company is good at what they do. Just make sure your trainer does what they are supposed to do so you don't end up failing when you are solo. So basically they're saying that it's a training company and that's what they're good for, is training, and that's about it. At least that's the way I'm reading it. Okay, we got a 1-star review here. Truck driver out of Dallas, Texas. Now just keep in mind Dallas, Texas is where their main terminal is, so a lot of these I'm sure are going to be from Dallas. If you can avoid this job, do so. You will become homeless and in debt. They do not give you the miles you need to bring home adequate pay to feed your family, and the team they surround you with works only for themselves. Avoid at all costs. If you want to keep your home, stay away from this place. That's a pretty rough one right there. We got another 1-star review here. Good training. Great training, just hard to get good miles afterwards. Overall, the people were nice, especially the trainers had so much advice to give. Okay, this 1-star review here, CDL Class A driver. This company has very poor communication. Be prepared to constantly have to remind DMs for layover pay, detention. Very frustrating. And actually, when I was on the recruiter phone call, I waited for about 7 minutes before somebody actually got on the phone and talked to me. And I had that little thought in the back of my mind, okay, if they're going to be this difficult to get a hold of to get a job, how much more difficult is it going to be to reach them when I'm actually working for them? Okay, so we got a 5-star review here. This one's from September Sense and an administrative assistant. Okay, we don't care about the administrative assistants. We're looking for drivers here. Okay, we got good job, driver out of Dallas. Good job if you don't mind being gone from home. Pay was fair. You make a lot more as a trainer. You can sit for a day or two waiting on freight, but get paid for it. Okay, so they have a little bit of layover pay. That's good to see from him. And of course, you're going to make more as a trainer. And I hope just for the sake of Stevens Transport that they're not pushing people into that training role way earlier than what it needs to be. There's a lot of companies out there that will take drivers with 6 months to a year of experience and go ahead and move them into trainer positions. And while I think after about 6 months to a year, you understand the job, being able to understand a job versus teach the job are completely different things. You want somebody with at least 5 years of experience, in my opinion, to be training somebody else. Okay, we got a 3-star here. The training was great. They literally will not let you leave out of the building if you aren't ready. Managers, trainers, support staff are respectful and helpful. Okay, so that's a pretty good one. I'm not sure, there was nothing negative in that. I'm not sure why they gave it a 3-star. This one's another 3-star here. Nice starter company, fresh out of CDL school. I joined here. It was really okay for me considering not knowing anything about trucking. No forced dispatch, lots of growth opportunity. We got another 1-star here from a truck driver. Listen to other reviews. I should have listened to the other reviews from others who worked here. Terrible all around from pay to management to training. You will get your miles, but have fun getting a hold of anyone. They will leave you stranded and everything they tell you is a lie. The only thing that isn't a lie is that you'll drive a truck. $1,000 guaranteed is a big lie. Good luck making $400 a week. There is almost always a problem with any load you get from shipper or receiver to bad trailer, etc. Overall, not worth the stress or experience. Find it elsewhere. There's plenty of opportunity out there. I'm sure 1 out of 20 drivers have a good experience here. Yeah, that's not a great review at all. Their pay is low according to this. There's some lying going on, and this is reoccurring thing. So I just want to keep you guys aware of the fact that we're looking at reviews. So there's some people that have a bad experience and they might be the cause of the bad experience. But when you see things that are consistently being a problem, whether it be pay or communication or getting the miles that you need for the week, that consistent problem that keeps on coming up, those are the things that you really want to pinpoint. But at the same time, I wouldn't rule out a company for a couple of reviews about, hey, sometimes I don't get home when I want to, or sometimes I don't have the miles per week. But if it's reoccurring, definitely focus in on that and pay attention to what people are saying. The idea that everybody's out here lying is not the case at all. We got another 1-star here, poor dispatch. Long hours, poor dispatch. The training sucks if you get with the wrong trainer. Pay is terrible. I was driving over 3,000 miles a week, making only like $600 to $700 a week. Now, I'm not sure if this guy's was in training or what, but that doesn't line up with 50 cents per mile at all. And to his credit, a bad trainer really can make the difference between you having a successful career and you having a failing career. Because trust me, when I started truck driving school, I had a terrible trainer. He tried his best to try to teach me, but he just didn't understand the stuff as well as he should have either. And that's what I mean when I say if you're getting a trainer that doesn't have a whole lot of experience, they're not able to teach it. The career of truck driving is very much so an experience thing. There's only so much that you can teach in a classroom, but when you get into a chemical plant and it was designed in the 1940s before big long trucks existed, and you have to try to figure out how to back a 53-foot trailer with a sleeper on it into these tight spots that were designed for box trucks, those are the type of experiences that you don't get in the classroom, and it takes time to learn how to maneuver in those really tight situations. Or a bunch of other stuff that comes up on the road, and the experience is the only way you'll learn how to do it. So overall, I'm not a big fan of these reviews on the website. 2.9 stars on Indeed and 2.7 on the Google reviews. That's absolutely the worst that I've ever seen. And like I said, with reoccurring things like poor pay, not getting the miles that they need, very poor communication, and bad dispatch, these were all reoccurring themes in both Google and Indeed reviews. But let's go ahead and take a look at their website and see if there's anything else as far as pay or miles on there. And if we can find anything, we'll see if it lines up with what the recruiter said on the phone call. We're going to go ahead and click on this drivers tab here. Okay, so the first thing I see is a video playing of their trucks, and then they have apply now. The very first thing you see when you click on the drivers tab is apply now. Okay, so we have the option for experienced drivers. Experienced Class A drivers find more than just a trucking job at Stevens Transport. We offer career advancement opportunities seasoned drivers want, from dedicated and regional routes to business ownership with the contractor division. With a base of Fortune 500 customers, Stevens Transport has the career options, the routes, the miles, and the equipment seasoned CDL drivers seek. Okay, so this is for experienced drivers. Let's go ahead and look at their CDL training. Becoming a truck driver is a career choice providing extraordinary pay, job stability, comprehensive benefits, and a proven path to career advancement. With over 40 years of training experience and expertise, Stevens Transport is recognized as the industry leader when it comes to entry-level driver training, with our company-sponsored truck driver training programs. A trucking career with Stevens Transport delivers more than just CDL training. This is the pathway to an array of opportunities for a rewarding lifetime career. Stevens Transport has a proven process to set you up for success. Okay, let's learn more about that. Okay, so this part is just bragging about the company and the truck driving school a little bit. Your journey begins with an extensive 160-hour rigorous certified training course for a Class A CDL and completes with a 240-hour paid behind-the-wheel finishing program. Okay, so that's when you're just going out with a driver trainer. Okay, so it's saying that they have a driving academy in Dallas, Texas, and a nationwide network of partner truck driving schools. No out-of-pocket costs for your CDL training, but we found out in the recruiter phone call that you are required to serve a year contract with them for that. And then again, we have apply now. I'm not seeing anything about pay, anything about what the program looks like. other than how many hours you're going to be there. Scroll down here to see if there's anything about pay or anything like that. And nope, entry-level driver training, they're just talking about how good their training is. Modern facilities, late equipment, blah, 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 blah. I'm not seeing anything about pay. At Stevens Transport, we see the value in adding skilled and talented drivers to the industry and allowing students to succeed in a new career. That's cool, but how much are you going to pay to do it? It does say that they have training tuition, lodge during school, meal assistance, and transportation assistance. Again, I'm not seeing anything about pay, and then you scroll down here to the bottom, and it wants you to go ahead and submit a form. Come work for us, even though we're not telling you how much you're going to make. For the love of everything pure and holy, please call the recruiters. I understand that I call the recruiters in these videos and you get to hear them from me, but each individual person is looking for something different out of their career. So while I do make these videos to help drivers out, I definitely urge you guys to make your own phone calls, do your own research, and make a decision that's right for you. Because many companies like this will not give you any information at all on their website except for bragging about how cool their training is. And as a driver, that's partially important, but you want to know how much you're going to make, how long it's going to take you, and what kind of contract you're going to have to serve for going through their CDL training program. And after looking over their entire website, there isn't a single thing that mentions any of these things. All right, so with their website not giving a whole lot of information, we're going to go ahead and look on YouTube to see if there's some other drivers that have gone to work with Stevens and see what their opinion of working with Stevens Transport is. And I'll leave links to all these videos down below, but this first one is from the Travel Trucker.
Everybody knows what Stevens Transport is, right? If you don't know, they're a bottom feeder company like Warner, the JB Hunt, CR England, where they get you from nothing and they train you up and you got to sign a contract to come ride with them to pay off your CDL debt for school, right? Stevens Transport is who they are. Before you go to Stevens Transport, there's no way you cannot know what you're signing up for. No, Stevens Transport does not pay good. They're going to try you. They're going to treat you like a second-class citizen. That's what bottom feeder companies do. You know what you're signing up for because you can't afford your CDL school, so you got to go to a bottom feeder.
Well, I don't necessarily think a bottom feeder company would be something that you have to go to if you can't afford CDL school. There's plenty of companies out there that'll get you your CDL, and they're not going to keep you trapped for forever.
The issue I have with people saying Stevens Transport is a bad company is it's kind of annoying because you knew what it was before you got there. So how can it be a bad company when you know what you're signing up for? You know they're a bottom feeder company. You know they're going to train you the right way, and you're going to have to go work for them for 6 to 12 months. Or I think it's a year now. Unless you got money to pay off the school, which they're going to put some interest on that. They're going to charge like 10 grand for school. So to say it's a bad company, which I'm guilty of doing, you know, I always talk crap about, you know, bullshit companies, but now, as time go on, I have a sense of clarity, like, wait, they're not about them. They are who they are.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I mean, a lot of these companies are training companies. They are designed to train you, get you a little bit of experience that you need, and get on out the door.
Stevens Transport, on they behalf, as far as, are they really that bad? It's not that they're really that bad. It's, do you really got to go that low to get in the door? How bad do you want your CDL? And that's what the answer need to be. Like, it ain't more so, is Stevens Transport a bad option? It's more so, how bad do you need or want your CDL?
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and I appreciate his perspective on it. A good company versus a bad company, it's really dependent on who the person that you're talking to is. One thing might be great for one person, and another thing might be absolutely miserable for another person. And that's why I find it hard to give people an answer to what company they need to go to. People ask me in the comment section all the time, what company should I go to? Well, I can't give you that answer. All I try to do on this channel is to give people all the information that I can gather on my own and input a little bit of my experience as a trucker to help you guys make the best decisions. But saying that a particular company is not a great company to go to work for, it really just depends on your life circumstances and where you want to go within your trucking career. But effectively, what this gentleman is saying is that Stevens Transport is a training company in a place that you have the ability to go and get your CDL through. But they are not the best company to be with overall. All right, so this next one is called How and Why I Left Stevens Transport After Only 2 Months of Over-the-Road Trucking. And this one is coming from the YouTube channel, The Truth Trucking.
Why I left Stevens Transport. Simple, the pay. It was the pay. The biggest check I had there was $800. Mind you, I was doing team driving, where I thought,
Whoa.
oh, it'd be probably better because the truck's never going to stop. Before I was doing HVAC, before trucking, I was doing restorations, and I knew I could make $1,200, $1,300 a week off of that, while being home every night and having my weekends off. Why am I going to be out on the road making $800 a week for months at a time? Makes no sense to me. I couldn't have it make sense. No, unacceptable. Obviously, my end goal wasn't to always stay at Stevens. I was going to leave Stevens to come to the company I'm at now, which I'll get into in another video. Anywho, I couldn't deal with the stress that I can only make $800 a week.
Yeah, coming from another trade where you can make a decent amount of money and switching into a new career field of trucking, it's definitely probably not going to line up. Especially having experience in HVAC and you can make a decent amount of money on your check, switching over into a new career field is something that is going to start you out back at the bottom. Now, is there potential to make well over $1,200 in the trucking industry a week? Absolutely. But like I said before, experience is the name of the game in trucking. The more experience you have, the more ability you have to have more options for better paying opportunities and more options for companies that will let you be home every night, aka local companies. So I understand this gentleman's hesitation with being an over-the-road trucker out all the time, only making $800 a week. However, there are some people that are working $13 an hour in a factory somewhere. That $800 a week is mind-boggling. They didn't think that they could ever make that amount of money. So again, it kind of boils down to what's your position in life. You know, is this going to be a move up for you? Is it going to be a move down for you? And sometimes in life it pays to take the harder road up front for the long-term benefit. And trucking is one of those things where the pay isn't great starting out, but the more time you get into it, the better it gets and the more opportunities that are available to you.
I can make more money being back home in Miami. But mind you, if you live in Miami, if you're from Miami, if you've ever been to Miami, even $1,000 a week isn't really enough to live by in Miami. Now, if you're from some small town in another state, $1,000 a week may be a fortune. In Miami, it just isn't. You know, I was told that the trucking industry, you can make a lot of money. I've seen my cousin making a lot of money. I've always thought, oh, maybe I'll get into trucking and I'll move to Texas. I remember exactly when I knew I was going to leave. We had just accepted the last load. The last load that I ever did. It was a load that we needed to save. Another driver had it, but he was never going to make it. And we were the only team drivers nearby. I remember I spoke to my dispatch manager, and I said, listen, I need to get off this truck. I'm done. He said, well, the perfect thing is you're the second seat driver. So the truck isn't your responsibility, but the load is. As long as you get off your load, you don't accept any new loads, you'll be perfectly fine. Which I thought, all right, awesome, you know, like I don't have to deal with that part. But I am responsible once I get off the truck to find my own way home. So I had just gotten my check for $800. I deliver this load. I was driving all night. We deliver the load. I find somewhere to park safely. And, you know, I called dispatch, hey, listen, they're begging me, wait, we have another load. Can you just do this load and we'll find you a way home? That way you don't have to buy a plane ticket. I couldn't. My mind was set that I was just going to go back to restorations at this point. And thankfully, I have a friend who works at the company I'm at now. A great friend of mine. You know, I called him. I said, hey, listen, I think I'm done with trucking.
Unfortunately, this happens to a lot of people. You get started in trucking and realize it's not for you, whether the pay's not right or you're out on the road too long. You have a significant other at home that can't deal with you being gone for so long, and they call you to come back home. And a bunch of other factors can make it to where you don't want to drive trucks anymore. So I definitely understand where this gentleman's coming from, and I've been there too. When I first started in the trucking industry, I remember some checks that were $50 for the week. And if 50 cents per mile mile is bad. Back when I started, it was 34 cents per mile starting out in a semi-truck. So I completely understand that upfront struggle to get through the hard time to where that you have a better time later on. All right, so now for the big question, okay or no way, would I, Trucker 219, with over 9 years of experience, almost 10 years of experience in the trucking industry, go to work for Stevens Transport? And I gotta be honest, the answer is absolutely no way. Because despite what the recruiter was saying, that you're gonna make 2,800 miles per week, you're gonna make 50 cents per mile, you should expect this amount of pay, the reviews on this place are so overwhelmingly negative that I would be a fool to go and work for them. Now, some people have had a great experience with Stevens Transport, but I think overall the overwhelming message is just to stay away. But like the travel trucker said, if you need to get a CDL and you need to get started in the industry and you don't have any other options, Stevens Transport is still on the table even for you. And for me, I understand what it's like to run a reefer unit. And I know all too many times that you are stuck at a dock waiting for hours on end for them to unload and count the product. On top of that, so much of the product gets rejected because it's not in perfect condition that you have to find somewhere to dump it. On Refrigerated, you're generally running overnight. I'm not sure why, but this just seems to be the standard in Refrigerated, is that you're doing overnight drives. The shippers and receivers are generally operating in the evening hours versus in the morning and throughout the day, which means you're going to have to get to places at 2 o'clock in the morning to get unloaded. But Stevens Transport isn't paying you while you're getting your CDL, and in fact, they actually want you to pay $100 into it on top of having a contract. And with all the other companies that are out there that will pay you while you're going through that, it just makes sense to go with a company that's going to pay you for those 3 weeks. Now, yes, there's contracts with those companies as well, but if you're going to have a contract regardless, might as well get paid while you're getting your CDL. And honestly, I think the only thing that Stevens Transport has going for it is that they only have outward-facing cameras, where most other carriers have inward-facing cameras. So based off of my research, it's a definite no way, but I want to know if you've worked for Stevens Transport, what was your experience like? Leave it down in the comments below so that other aspiring drivers can hear your story and find out what it's truly like to work for them. And if you want to check out all the other deep dives that I've done, click the playlist right here. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right? Bye.